All right, we are live. What's up, everybody? We are live, y'all. What's up, everybody? Welcome to another session of the Tautauatalk Podcast. You guys already know my name is Will. I am the host of this show, the number one Polynesian podcast in the world. Oh wow, let's get it. We have a great show for you guys tonight. I can see some viewers tuning already. I see you, Selena Pakitoa, already. Hey, Selena, what's up, man? Thank you so much already tuning in with that fire comment. Thank you for tuning in already on the live show. Thank you so much. But nevertheless, yeah, thank you so much for everybody tuning in. If you're tuning in for the very first time, thank you so much for tuning in for the live show. As you guys can see, we have a great panel of guests tonight, Pacific Islander men and women. And of course, we have a great topic for all the Pacific Islanders out there right now that we're going to discuss tonight. I see you, Sherry Paolo. Hey, let's go. Hey, what's up? I see you, Sherry. Thank you so much for being on the live chat. Let's go. Yeah, we have a great show. I love that. Bring the energy, y'all. But of course, everybody out there that love and support my channel, and of course, everybody out there that subscribe to my channel, thank you so much for all the love and support. If you love the content, appreciate the quality of work I put in for you guys and the weekly shows I put in for you guys, smash and press that like, subscribe button real quick. Don't forget, I do have a disclaimer out there for everybody out there under the age of 18.
This content is not suitable for the children under the age of 18 without adult supervision. Please be advised.
All right, please be advised and shout out to the main or originator of that comment, Savage Island. Thank you so much. A quick disclaimer for everybody out there, everybody under the age of 18. We're going to have some good, real, mature adult conversations. So please be ready. Of course, don't forget the live chat, guys. You guys already know what to do in the live chat. It's a live show. Let me know what you guys think. You guys already know the topic that we're going to discuss tonight. And of course, we're going to discuss various different things that's related to the topic. Always appreciate feedback and opinions of what you think about tonight's topic. I would love to hear what you guys have to say. So don't hold back. Keep it real. Keep it honest. Keep it unfiltered. And let me know what you guys think to add on to tonight's discussion tonight. Don't forget, this is a public show. So if you're not familiar with my content, I always like to invite people to come on and be part of the podcast. Obviously, I know there's going to be a lot of you guys out there may have different opinions and may want to add on to the discussion and want to say some things part of the podcast. I'm going to post the link on the YouTube live chat. So if you're watching this from Twitch, if you're watching this from Facebook, you have to come to YouTube, click on the live chat, it's pinned to the top of the screen, and you can be part of the conversation. So I always invite everybody out there to be part of the conversation. Whether you disagree, whether you agree with whether you agree with what a lot of things we say, and I know there's a lot of people out there may disagree. A lot of my haters out there.
How dare you?
So what do you hate? What do you hate? Whether you try to cancel me or whether you try to say some negative things about me, I'm always willing to have a conversation with you and challenge you. So I'm pretty sure that a lot of you guys have different opinions about certain things. I invite you guys to be part of the podcast. I would love to hear what you guys have to say. But nevertheless, don't forget we do have the super chat donations. Always appreciate you guys always supporting financially to my channel. Always appreciate you guys always supporting my channel, helping grow. If you have you want to support my channel, drop it through a super chat. The best way to do it is ask it through a question or topic. So if you have a specific question or topic that you guys want the panel to discuss and share their thoughts on what they think about it, drop it through a super chat donation so we reciprocate your financial support. And of course, every single donation will be reinvested back to my podcast and help me launch my podcast studio by the end of this year. All right, I see you Too Wonderful already. I see you in the Too Wonderful in the live chat. Hey guys, hey, what's up, Too Wonderful? Thank you so much being on the live show. And I see Liti. Hey, Liti Savage. Hi guys, that's my handsome Batman. Hey, what's up, Liti? Hey, thank you so much. Shout out to you, Liti. Always much love to La Paja being on the live chat. Thank you so much, Liti. But nevertheless, that's pretty much all my YouTube stuff. I appreciate all you guys. We have a great panel and we have a great topic to discuss tonight. And yeah, hopefully we have some great discussions and you guys can be part of it as well. But I'm open up to the guests real quick. Thank you so much. Shout out to the live guests for being part of tonight's show. I know you guys are busy, but taking the time to be part of this discussion, always appreciate that for you guys. But I'm gonna allow you guys real quick to do a quick intro. I'm gonna start off with my newest guest on the live show all the way from Australia. I'm gonna allow you guys real quick to introduce yourselves real quick. So I'll start with you, Pepe. Go ahead and introduce yourself real quick.
Hi everybody, my name is Venezuela Pepe Malasi. Guys, hi, I'm Pepe. I'm currently residing in Sydney, Australia.
All right, no worries. All right, shout out to you. Thank you so much. And go ahead, Sega.
Hi, my name is Singer. Me and Pepe are friends. We currently have our own podcast called Tautauatalk. We are excited to be here tonight. Thank you for Will for actually inviting us on. We're excited to speak. But yeah, we're of Samoan descent, and we love this topic. And yeah, we're ready to go.
All right, no worries. Thank you so much for both of you guys bringing the heat all the way from Australia. And I see you. And of course, I'll definitely drop their podcast. Please support their podcast if you love the content and you want to hear more of what they have to say. And of course, I see Shari Paolo said, "That's my sister's Tautauatalk." Hey, shout out to you, Shari. Thank you so much. And I see you, Koso Panty. Hey, Venezuela Pepe. All right, shout out to you, Koso Panty. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being on the live chat, live comments. Always appreciate you guys. But let me pass it on to the fellas real quick for a quick introduction. Go ahead, Taniela. Go ahead and introduce yourself real quick.
Hello, everyone. I'm Taniela, obviously from the screen. Stuff the introduction. I just want to get into this topic. I think this is where we're going to unravel a lot of our own beliefs and how we see our own culture. So rather than holding up, let's get into it.
All right, no worries. Taniela, thank you so much. Always appreciate you being part of the panel. And last but not least, Savage, go ahead and introduce yourself real quick.
Yeah, my name is Savage Island, and I live in America. I'm 33 years old. I'm married, and I have 4 kids. And right now, I'm post-banned on TikTok because I did a no-no. So with that being said, hopefully I don't get a YouTube banned either. Thank you, Will, for having me on and to the panel. Love you guys very much, and thank you for being a part of this.
All right, no worries, man. Savage always out there talking some no-nos, man. You give me TikTok some Hadouken. You do Hadouken over there on TikTok, man. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Savage. Always appreciate you being a part of the live podcast. And nevertheless, thank you so much. Let's get right into it. You guys already know the topic that we're gonna discuss tonight. Are Pacific Islanders losing culture, roots, and identity in Western society? So I know there's been a lot of people that have been reaching out to me. Obviously, if you guys are not familiar with my content, I do various podcasts, and I know I've done it with Savage and Daniela in the past. We talk about a lot of topics regarding Pacific Islanders, and a lot of people did reach out to me, especially Pacific Islanders in the West. They had some questions, talk about how many kids don't know their culture, how many kids have issues with their identity, growing up in Western society. They don't speak their language. They don't know their roots. Of course, living in Western society, we're influenced by different things. We're influenced by the modern culture, the internet, the technology. So there's so many things. A lot of Pacific Islanders who grew up in Western society. So a lot of them say, a lot of them are having issues. What they believe in, having issues to figure out their purpose in life, having issues to figure out who they are, to find their confidence because they don't know their culture. They don't know how to speak the language. They see things in modern society that's normally accepted, that's socially accepted, that's the social norm, but may not be the norm in their culture. So they're going with they're confused. So they're conflicted, like, who am I? Who am I as a Pacific Islander? So these are the questions I do receive from a lot of people ask me these type of questions. So I thought, I think this is a good topic to discuss, especially all of us, we're Pacific Islanders. We're all living our own journey, our own lives. All of us are a little bit older. So we've gone through our own journeys to figure out ourselves and our own identity, not only as individuals, but also as a collective, as a group, as Pacific Islanders. So I'm interested to hear what you guys have to think, especially for all the young people out there that's listening or people out there that may have questions about their culture identity. So if you have any questions regarding that you guys definitely want to hear, definitely put it on the live chat. I would love to answer some of your questions, the things you may have, especially all the younger generation. And also we're gonna kind of break down our roots and our history. And a lot of people were asking me, we don't know the historical context of the history because it's kind of lost. I know Savage and Daniela, you have a lot of knowledge about that. And of course, I'm interested to hear from Pepe and Seca. If we can share that tonight for a lot of those who are asking questions about, our history and where our origins come from. But that's pretty much how I kind of formulated the topic that we're going to discuss tonight. So I definitely want to hear from you guys, what you guys think. But I started off with you, our newest guest, ladies. What do you guys think? I'll start with you, Pepe. What do you think? What do you think about the topic? Are Pacific Islanders losing their cultural roots and identity in Western society? So what's your first reaction? What's your first thoughts about the topic? Go ahead, Pepe.
No. I personally, I don't think so, bro. I don't know how it is, like, I guess in America. I think because Australia and I guess New Zealand is very close to home. Like, you know, it's culture's still alive, very, very much alive and active. I guess where I've grown up and come from, even now, like, it's very strong in Australia. When I say strong, like, I see it everywhere. I see it, church. I see it, sports. I see it in songs. Like, it's still very much alive from where I'm from or from where we're from. So no, not entirely. Are we losing our culture? I guess there's just slight things we are losing in regards to, I guess, culture as a whole. But I think it's very much alive on our end.
All right, no worries. And before I pass it to Sega, you said that there are some things we are losing. So, do you have any examples of certain things that we are losing that you just said? What do you see?
I would say straight up, I reckon our language, the formal language, I guess, as a Samoan as well. Like, I take blame for that, especially in my own household. But, you know, like, I didn't. It wasn't heavy on me to teach it to my kids at home. Like, so in that aspect, like, I take full responsibility in regards to why my kids don't speak Samoan. So I would say the language. But just in general as well, like, for my kids' generation, like, I think it's losing slowly.
Okay. All right, the language. All right, no worries. All right, thank you for sharing that, Pepe. And ladies, I see you guys have a lot of supporters in the live chat, man. A lot of support from Australia Premium Family, man. I see they blow up the live right now. I see Chaz. Hey, Pepe, 100 fire emoji. Thank you so much, Chaz, for being on the live chat. Thank you so much, everybody on the live chat. Appreciate you guys. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll pass it to you, Sega. Sega, what do you think? What's your initial thoughts, your first thoughts about the topic? Are Pacific Islanders losing their cultural roots and identity in Western society?
I've always thought that this topic is it can go two ways. I think one, individually is an individual and is a blanket as a whole. I think for me personally, because my parents always took me back home, and because we spoke our first language is at home is Samoan, and me personally, it's not lost. But we do see there is a gap generationally in regards to it. So I think in regards to cultural roots and identity in Western society, if you come from a place like New Zealand and Australia, because we're so close to the homeland, and I think we have the same opinion for that, there is not a loss in it. But what we do find is that by every single generation, we're seeing certain things that we don't like about our culture that we're not teaching our kids, and therefore we don't teach them those things. And I think we go the opposite way.
Yes, also, yeah.
So I think that's what's happening is that the more generations come, which she's like Bibi was talking about, each generation comes, there's certain aspects that our parents taught us that we don't want to teach the other generation. But we find that that's going the opposite effect, is that we don't even teach our kids anything about our culture. So I think for us, it's more a generational thing that we're doing it. I think for me is I'm more losing hope for our Generation Z, because Z, if that's what you call them, is that regards to that we are not teaching them the culture. And I think that's what I believe, that it's more not a Western society thing, but it's more a community aspect and more a generational aspect. So that's it for me. But I do believe it starts at home. And I think that's why we are losing the culture, because we're not teaching our kids the culture. So that's where I come from. That's my point of view.
All right, no worries. Thank you so much. I appreciate that for sharing that, Sega. And yeah, definitely going to come back to the culture and open up a little bit more for the discussion. And I see you, Liana Rona, on the live chat. Yeah, come on, Tautauatalk, Sonic, and Pepe. Hey, shout out to you, Liana Rona. Thank you so much. The live chat. I always appreciate everybody out there tuning in for the first time on the live chat. Thank you so much for being on the live show on tonight's channel. Much love to you guys. But let me pass it to the fellas. Fellas, what do you guys think? I'll start with you, Taniela. Taniela, what do you think? Are Pacific Islanders losing their cultural roots and identity in Western society?
Yeah, it's such a question. It really depends on who's asking the question and what sort of outlook they have, right? To me, in my sort of way of looking at it, no, because how do we define root in culture? I've got children that were born here in New Zealand, and they're rooted to the whenua of Aotearoa. They have Tongan blood. I am Tongan and my wife is Tongan, but they share the bond. They're deeply rooted in Aotearoa. They're not Māori, won't claim that they're Māori, but they're deeply rooted here. So the culture that they'll grow up in, essentially, will be somewhat of a mixture of all sorts. So their culture is not necessarily Tongan anymore. They are Tongan and they're New Zealanders. So I guess if an elder is asking this question, they might be looking at it from the lens of what their cultural roots were. And yes, they might say, the generations after mine are starting to lose the culture. But as we find, I think it's not so much of lost, it's more evolution. Our culture are evolving in ways that our elders have provided us time to, so that we may sit down and look and dissect our culture in a way where, hey, those practices aren't really suitable in certain ways. There are a lot of toxic practices that are still passed down. We don't want to pass that on to our children. Or there are some great values taken from our elders that we want to pass on. And, you know, the great thing about the youth and the new generations is that we always afford time for them. So my children may grow up and go, hey, those practices that you taught us, maybe those were toxic. We want to bring a new way of looking at our values as Tongans, as Samoans, Fijian, whatever it is, and we want to incorporate that and passing on to our children. So rather than lost, I think it's just evolution. There's a claim to have is that if you can't speak your language, then you're not culturally from there, which is a pressure often passed on by elders because they see very big importance in language, which is just a communication tool. If you really want to track down what it is to be Tongan or what it is to be Samoan, is it just language? Is it just practices? Where do we draw that from? How far do we go back? Do we go back to, say, 100 years ago, 200 years ago? What were the landscape were at the time? So, yeah, I don't believe so. I believe that your cultural root should be with where you share the land and where you were birthed in. And you should pay homage to that, but not only that, take some time. If it's a pursuit that you see worth, to at least pursue the land where your mothers and fathers came from. So I think it's more evolution than lost.
All right, no worries. All right, thank you so much. Yeah, and agreeing on a lot of things, and I think Selena Pakatoa said gave you the clap typing emoji, Taniela, and then Sean said, "Yeah, so true." All right, thank you so much, everybody out there. Appreciate you guys on the live chat. Thank you for sharing that, Taniela. I'll pass it to you, Savage. What do you think about that question? Are Pacific Islanders losing their cultural roots and identity in the Russian society?
Yeah, definitely. I would. Well, before anything, I just want to make sure that if anybody takes offense or disrespect from what I say, listen, man, that's not my intention. But if you're gonna take it that way, well, then fuck you. You know, my thing is this is like, yeah, here in America specifically, right? So we got Australia, and then we got New Zealand in the house. The three prominent places where we migrated, losing our cultural value. It's sad, but it's the understanding: are we losing culture or are we losing tradition? Right? Because we're traditional here. That's no doubt, right? Whakapapa, Fa Samoa, we still hold that. That's the traditional way. But the culture itself, what use is me dancing the laka laka or the kai lao if the Chinese or the Africans don't identify with what the fuck I'm doing at a multicultural, function, right? The culture has no sustainability here because it doesn't apply. So as far as, are we losing culture? Yes, but what is the exchange in that? The exchange is we are creating subculture now. Because when you left the island, key point, my grandparents and my mother and father, when they left the island, you left the culture automatically. Why? The culture applies at home. When you came to America, it no longer applies here. It has no value here. Why? Because we as people only know this to be true between us. The black people don't care. White people don't care. The Native Americans, they don't care. And it's not their job to care, but we can give insight. Why? By introducing the tradition. So here in America, the language isn't important. Why? We all speak English, right? The dancing is not important. Why? Because we're all into hip hop, and then the food and all that. Nothing cultural about anything we do here in America stems from back home. The only thing I'll tell you right now that's cultural about Pacific Islanders in America, and Jesus Christ, fuck you, Disney, is Moana, Maui, or whatever the fuck you want to call it, because Maui is the god from the Pacific in our ancient indigenous cultures, right? The Moana is the ocean that we know it to be. But that's not taught. Why? Because there's not a curriculum taught here in the universities and state colleges. Why is that important to highlight? Simply because of this. None of our fucking elders remembered to come here and teach it. So now when the kids grow up, what's missing is the knowledge. Well, my mom never taught me because your mom was working. She had 3 jobs. Right? She didn't have time to sit down with any of you and teach you any of the shit, because when she got here, she hit the ground running. She didn't have time to teach anything. So now we're in a generation that's actually removed from the culture. Why? Because none of us want to go back home. When growing up here in America, it was a punishment. Do you want to go back to Tonga? Huh? You want to go back? Why was that a punishment? That made no sense to me. But it is what it is, because apparently it was more impoverished than living here where it was high luxury. How do I know that to be true? Well, what's the one thing any Polynesian or Micronesian, Melanesian person does when they get here? You have to send money back. Well, that's kind of fucking weird. That's a weird dynamic. But you have to send money back. Why? Because now the culture is based on that. It changed. I want to say back, what happened? Well, specifically for Tonga, I know it changed after the Friendship Act was ended, and then we became a member of the Commonwealth in 1970. So, now that we depend on things like industry, politics, and of course, religion, we lost culture a long time ago. That's out of the question. So with that being said, yeah, we are losing the culture as far as Pacific Islanders here in America.
All right, no worries. Thank you for sharing that, Savage. I appreciate you guys, all your live feedback. I guess before I open up for discussion, I kind of want to get some clarity in a lot of things everybody said. I guess the question is, what is the culture? What is the culture? And because that's like, I guess that's the question of a lot of people. What is the culture? What is the tradition? Especially for kids here in Western society that definitely didn't grow up in the culture, who probably didn't know the history of the education, and they may feel like lost a little bit. So I just want to ask you guys your opinions. Like, what is the culture? What is the traditions for any Pacific Islander to have awareness to realize if they, because obviously some of you guys said, well, Sabby said they're losing it. Taniela said it's more evolution. Pepe and Sega, you guys said it's you don't believe it's lost, and we're still upkeeping it. So how would a Pacific Islander know they're losing, or they're still maintaining, or something is like you said, maybe they don't know what they're doing, or they don't know their culture? I think that's the question I do receive from a lot of people, a lot of Pacific Islanders, especially the younger people. It's like they don't know, like how do they? What's the definition of culture? Well, like how do you know this is the roots? Like sometimes we hear from the older generation, oh, you guys are losing your roots, you guys losing your way. But if somebody didn't grow up that way, how would they know if they're losing their way if they didn't grow up with the culture and the roots? So I just want to hear your guys' definition is like, what do you think because I think Savage brought it up. We're in America and Western society where we're in hip hop, we're in the Black culture, Chinese culture. So there's something that about Polynesian culture that makes us different. What is that? For people out there to know? Okay, I am Pacific Islander because I do this. I am Pacific Islander because I'm part of this. But what is that? Just for everybody that's watching this right now, because I guess that's the conversation. Like, what is the culture? What is Pacific Islander culture that makes us separate and unique and different from every other culture that we are part of in Western society? So I want to hear your definitions and your interpretation of what that is. Let's start with you, Pepe. Pepe, what do you think? What is, and you guys are Samoans, like what is the Samoan culture? What is Samoan tradition? That's unique for only Samoans. It's different from everybody else. To kind of for anybody to be for Samoans to know, like, oh yeah, I'm Samoan, or like, yeah, I'm proud to be Samoan. Like, what is that?
I'm Samoan because I'm related to The Rock. Nah, bro. Like I love how you kind of differ the hey culture and tradition. Look, for me, like culture is the way of life. Like that's the way you're brought up in, in your household, in your home, whatever. Tradition is something that's passed down from the culture, I guess, if that makes sense. I guess like culture wise, what makes me a Samoan? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, like what is Samoan culture?
I think one of the biggest things that we hold, I guess, not even just as Samoans, but as Pacific Islanders in general, I think is like just the respect for our elders. Like for that, I don't see it, and I don't see it in a lot of I guess cultures or nationalities or other countries. Like the respect for our elders, it's very different to us PIs because we hold them to such a high account. Like we hold them, there's so much honor in us that we give. You know what I mean? Like to our elders. That's for me, like that's something I'll cherish. Like I love the honor aspect of our culture. Like that's something that I love. That's something that I have passed down to my kids. Like for me, there's so much culture. Like I know Savage Batman over there was talking about like, he was talking about like it doesn't, I don't know, just correct me if I'm wrong, bro, but you were saying along the lines of like, there's certain things in Tonga that doesn't I guess match, there in America. It doesn't matter. Do you know what I mean? But I feel like that still stems from home. Like it's up to you what matters and what doesn't. Who gives a damn what everyone else thinks outside of your home or outside of your, of your sphere? Like what matters is what I like. For me, I'm like, man, if it's up to me to keep my culture alive in my home. So if I want to teach my kids like, hey, this is how we're gonna do it, and this is, no ifs, buts, or maybes. That's the culture that I'm bringing because I'm your mom and I'm allowed because I'm the boss, whatever. But it'll stay alive as long as I'm alive. And if I kind of install that in my kids, that's a culture in itself as well. Traditionally, like there's so many Samoan traditions that I love, and then some that I kind of, sandpaper me a bit. But I guess that's for all cultures as well. Okay. Thanks.
All right, no worries. All right, thank you for sharing that, Pepe. Pass it to you, Sega. Sega, same thing. What is Samoan culture that makes you guys different from every other culture? And if this is
I think what really differs us Samoans from different ones, and like in regards to Samoan culture, the language is so important. We have a Samoan culture, a Samoan language, and we have a different type of language with us. And if you really read into our language, there's a certain language that we speak that's very poetic, that's very thing. And I think that's what we differs, that we speak in high esteem to high guests, to pastors or people of high stuff. I think what differs our culture from other cultures is that our language is very important to us. And I think that's why there is that topic like the other gentleman said, he goes, man, the language is it very important. That's why us Samoans, the language is important because why? We really identify it because it identifies where our family's from, how we speak to our elders. There's a specific 2 sets of language that we speak. Yeah. And I think that's what we really differ as regards to other cultures is that we really value high for Samoan. It's the way we do things as Samoans. And on top of that is language, how we speak to certain people. And I think that's what we really differs for us as Samoans. And also I think one of the things is how we honor people, honestly, because we honor people who have certain chief names and pastors and stuff like that. That's something that we do in Samoans is we hold them to high esteem. And it can be detrimental and it can be a good way, but I think that's one thing that we do is in Samoans that differs from other cultures is honoring people and just our language.
Okay, no worries. And yeah, thank you for sharing that, ladies. Let me pass it on to Taniela. Taniela, I know you're talking, so yeah, like what is like
let me pass it on to let me pass it on to Savage, if you can. And
okay,
sort of come back to me.
I'll come back to you, Taniela. Okay, yeah, I'll pass it to you, Savage. So, what's your thoughts, Savage? What is culture? You brought up the difference between tradition and culture, and what for everybody out there, what's your thoughts about what is tradition? What's Pacific Islander tradition? What's Pacific Islander culture that kind of makes us different for anybody out there that are responding to kind of be aware of that.
Okay. Well, yeah, definitely. I mean, for instance, I mean, one thing for sure is like here in America, I'm not going to speak on anyone else. We have PCC. Why is that unique? PCC, the Pacific Cultural Center, highlights what it was like back in ancient times for Pacific Islanders. But it makes us different because we're able to give that part of our history. We can show you in a show. People pay the tickets. You come sit down and you watch, and that makes us unique. Why? Because I don't know any other cultures that have a cultural center to where you can get insight. The village of Tonga, the village of Tahiti, the village of Samoa, Talofa. It's a unique thing because people, when they go to Hawaii, that's the first thing they want to do. They want to get in touch with the culture. Like, yes, this is great. One of my good friends, shout out to the Uso Samoan superhero Leti Faitala. He tells an amazing story about how him and his Tongan mates, because Samoans and Tongans, when we get together, we're just bad shit's gonna happen because our joking is past levels beyond, right? But so there's a Palangi guy comes up and he goes, "Hey, I enjoyed the show and I just want to make sure you tell your staff thank you for taking care of us. What's the greeting? Malaho." And then, Letty goes, "Well, you said what?" He's like, "Yeah, Malaho." I was like, "Oh, hey, you see those Tongan guys over there? Make sure to go say Malaho to them, right?" So, in an instant, that Palangi guy's gonna get his ass up because now you're with the Samoan guy. Just the uniqueness that Palangi shit about the culture ass kicked because you don't know the culture. But hey, it's at the expense that we get to laugh at you. So that's a unique quality that we get to share, right? The terms uso, toko, boso. What else? The dancing, obviously the dancing, the eating. These are things that are unique to us. That when you see it, oh yeah, that's what they call a earth oven. I think they call it an umu. Yeah, that's where they put the food under the ground and they cook, right? That's identified with us. So a lot of these values that we have, it's absolutely wonderful when people can say, "Oh, you're Samoan, aren't you?" It's like, "How did you know?" "I could tell by your last name." Yeah, that's unique. It's absolutely unique. These are things that have us, that no matter where you go in the world, that is our imprint, that is our identity there. But it's really tough to say how deep that really goes because as far as I know, cultural back in Tonga, when was the last time you seen anybody over the age of 60 working a job? You don't. You see them at home working around the house, cleaning the farm, taking care of the livestock, and watching the kids because old people aren't supposed to work. But when you come to America, what happens? Oh shit, well, you better get a job. Grandma will work her ass off from 60 to 70 to 80. That's not cultural. That's in no way, shape, or form cultural. But the tradition is I must take care of my family because I am the provider, I'm the protector, and I am the orator of everything that goes on in this family. So, that's a lot of things we lose when we migrate out of the culture and the land is, how do we teach the next generation to uphold these little things that may not mean a lot to these people, but means so much to us, right? You know damn well that if the king is in your presence as a Tongan, if the king's in your presence, you are in the utmost respect and manifold like aura that you can be. You want to be as respectful as you can. But if you come to America, that doesn't hold weight. I'm sorry, that only applies in Tonga. I'm American here. So all that traditional shit, that was good, but I don't actually serve you here. Why? Because I was born here. I may be indigenous to the land, but I don't apply to those laws anymore. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of this is really tough to discern because you have to go down a historical route where if your grandparents are dead now, you don't have access to that history anymore. The oratory is still important. You can read all the books you want, but if you didn't talk to grandma, if you didn't talk to grandpa, auntie, or uncle, then what worth is your knowledge in this life?
It's good. That's good.
All right, no worries, man.
Good,
Yeah,
brother.
thank you for saying this. Thank you for sharing that, Savage. I always appreciate you, man. And I'll pass it to you, Daniela. Daniela, what's your thoughts about, what is for all the Pacific Islanders living here in the Western society who may not have the knowledge or didn't grow up with the culture, maybe they don't know their identity as Pacific Islanders. What is Pacific Islander culture?
This one's going to get a bit of backlash because there really isn't anything unique to us. Other than language, maybe. But if you really dissect it, we put a lot of importance into camaraderie, respect. Not only that, our economical status is probably, which what Savage was touching on. As elders, you hardly see any elder sort of working to have any monetary value exchange. Vast majority of our elders looked after, they stay home, they either look after the house or they're catered for. So in terms of what's unique to us, we're all human beings in the most simplest terms. The only thing that we can claim uniqueness to is probably our travel throughout the moana and our history. That's what sets us apart, is that we're probably the sort of last surviving warrior race and navigators of the human race, essentially. We were the last ones to navigate the Pacific Ocean and conquered it with such... to me, to go back and trace our history and how we've navigated the Pacific Ocean is unique and beautiful in itself. And I guess that's where we can claim uniqueness. But in terms of our practices and culture, all throughout the Pacific, we follow very similar inkling of what we value amongst all else. The only things that sort of differs and separates us maybe is the way that we dress up in traditional dresses or costumes, and the language. But in terms of the values that we share very similar values, and that to me is a witness to who we were as people, and ultimately we were warriors. The three biggest dynasty that sort of ran amok, if one would put a word to it, were Fijians, Samoans, and Tongans. And that's a vast majority of the Pacific Islands are heavily influenced by very inklings of that time. One place, if anyone is truly interested in oratory history, I highly advise Futuna and Waris. They hold a lot of language, and it's on my bucket list to go and visit and sort of talk to the elders there. There has been some very prestigious men, both within the academic and non-academic space, who've done research all over the Pacific, and they've claimed that Wallace and Futuna holds a lot of our history. If we really want to trace it back, why? If you look at Wallace and Futuna's language, they are a mixture of Tongan, Fiji, and Samoan, and they hold a lot of our history. The other one is the Falefas. There are families of Falefa in Samoa, Fiji, and Tonga. They hold a lot of the history that we have lost. And if the podcast goes into it, I'll delve into why that is very important. The Falefa holds a very important role within the Pacific sort of paradigm. They were the last protectors of the Tuitonga, which is the last sort of dynasty to roam the Pacific in conquest of trying to unite the Pacific in one banner. Obviously, Samoa, or we call Ha'amoa, the Malietoa, after the existence of the Tuimanua, were the only sort of warrior race or warrior tribes that stood up amongst all the other islands, which they have a big claim to, and there's a big respect for them and in Tonga. But in terms of history, what I do know and what I'm sort of currently delving into, if you want to know why your culture is unique, you either make it a bucket list to go to Wallace and Futuna, and also seek out the families within, whether you're Fijian, Samoan, Tongan, that has some tie to the Falefas. They hold a lot of history. And the reason why we haven't heard a lot of it is actually very strategic. And if And I'll be happy to discuss it more. But yeah, there isn't really. I guess our uniqueness is that we're the only surviving culture that holds a lot of value back to the land, and there's inkling of that from all indigenous sort of culture that's still living today. So the way that we practice things, there's a lot of respect for nature. There's a lot of respect for the life cycle of human beings. So, yeah, I hope I didn't babble on too long, but that's my take.
No worries. Thank you for sharing, Taniela. I do want to open up real quick. Anybody agree or anything, disagree with somebody said? Do you want to open up real quick to if you guys want to share? Savage, go ahead.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I agree with what Daniela was saying. I mean, the importance of pushing research and studies. Because oratory is still credible, but a lot of it could be exaggerated. That's the hard part to discern from, because just as much as the books doesn't give you the experience, but then the oratory can be at some point stretched and a little bit vague as the years go on. Because why? Our elders, they get old, and the value becomes lessened when they don't remember the details. So in a lot of ways, that to me is where the singing, the dancing comes in play. The tattoos is when we before they outlawed the singing back in Tonga, when the church came, we sang old songs. That was where the history stayed. It stayed in the songs, the dancing. Like even right now, like I think what Taniela he's getting to it too, is we're both going to run into it, is how every Pacific Islander culture, we definitely share one solid commonality, if not many. And that's like for Tonga, I can say honestly, like the Ma'u, we learned that, right? The Taulunga, we learned that, and we adapted it, we adjusted it. I'm trying to remember, the Kailao, we learned that from Uvea, or now Wallace and Futuna. And it's like we forget this because it's not you don't get an A or a B or a C for learning it, right?
Yeah,
what's the importance? Well, if you don't get grades for learning of it, well, what's the importance? It's identity. That's where the value is truly lost. So I just wanted to say that's where I agree with Taniela, that he was getting there. But I love where we're going with this right now.
I agree.
Do you agree?
Is Will stunned that he's speechless?
Oh shit! I thought I was frozen. Oh my
Trying to
god!
gather his balls.
Hey, Will, are you okay, Togo? Will looks like an angry dad. He looks like an angry dad right now.
Come on, Willie.
No, it's our history is actually. I love going into this topic in terms of our history, because there is a question in our comment section saying, I didn't mention the last tribes of Africa and Amazon. The reason why I didn't mention them specifically, and I did at the beginning of my long-winded sort of speech, is that I'm going to catch a lot of slack for this. Yes, there are still tribes within the African landscape. There are tribes within the Amazonian landscape, but they have never left where they lived. The reason why I claim and am proud to be Pacific Islander is the way that we navigated the Pacific Ocean and the strategies that we used in order to not only navigate the ocean, but navigate the land. Vast majority of the land, if we delve into the geographical landscape of it, vast majority of it were uninhabitable. We've taken a lot of strategies from all over our different tribes and taught them to each other. We linked each other and shared the knowledge that we had. The things like chicken, even karo and sweet potatoes, those were all imports. Vast majority of the techniques we used within our own islands were borrowed from other tribes. We borrowed a lot of plants and animals. So yeah, there are, we can say, yep, there's tribes in Africa, there's tribes in the Amazon, but if you really go and look at Pacific Islander in terms of their journey throughout the Pacific, you cannot compare. Even if we are sort of a diaspora within the globe right now, you cannot compare.
Yeah.
All right, no worries. Thank you, Taniela. Did Pepe and Sega, did you guys want to add on anything you agree or disagree?
No, we agree. I agree.
Yeah, we agree.
We agree. I mean,
I love what Savage said in regards to like there is book knowledge, but then there's oratory language that we get from like our grandparents and stuff like that, which is very true because I like especially in Samoa, like a lot of our stuff is like it's passed through oratory, but we feel like we're losing that as soon as our grandparents lost. Like for example, for us is like, how do we know our tree line is through our grandparents? So what we did is we had to write it all down before they actually passed away. So and I believe that's one of the things that we really have to put into is that all the knowledge that we're getting from our grandparents must be put into books and stuff like that, so we don't lose it, because I feel that that's very important. But I agree too, there's book knowledge about our culture, but then there's the oratory language in regards to our culture. So I love what Savage said in regards to that. And also true, Samoan too, we learn a lot about our culture through singing and dancing, like a lot of our songs too, saying where we're from. So I love when you mentioned that as well. And Taniela, I'd love to hear about Whalefa.
yeah, we're just whispering.
Her dad's from Whalefa. Like that's something that's very interesting to us as well, because that's where her dad's from, and it's a village in Samoa. So that's the first time I've heard of that. That's very interesting.
We'll save that Whalefa because Daniela could take the whole podcast with the Hold up. Hold up on the
No, I was just going to add on, other than the traditional dances and music, before my late granddad passed away, who shares a direct lineage to Tutuila, he said not to forget the talatupua, or the mythology and the legends of our own islands. And the reason why he said that is he believed that was the strategy that our ancestors passed on our oratory history. And the reason why he believes in that is there's a lot of credit goes to Siastupo Uraki of Tonga, the first monarchy to unite essentially Tonga under the Christian banner. And the reason why he credited him to that was that the strategy, if we were to write books of our history, the Europeans would have done a lot of revision to it, and it would have been lost where it originated from. So from a very strategic standpoint, our history was hidden not only in the dances, the songs, but in our talatupua. Like one, for example, is Te Kava. The mythology of Te Kava from our standpoint is Tongan. It actually goes back to a very rich history of when Tonga broke their, I guess it was a treaty with Ha'amoa, with the first Tuitonga. Because the Tuitonga lineage, they have a tie to Tangaloa, the Tangaloa tribe of Ha'amoa, which is the first lineage of Tuitonga. And there was a promise that all the Tuitonga from then on would marry back to Ha'amoa. Kava was a product of incest in Tonga, which also at the same time, the Tuitonga did not honour their ancestors' promise to go back to Ha'amoa. Instead, he courted and essentially laid with his own half-sister. And then from then on, there was a lot of assassinations from then on because of that brokerage of linkage back to Ha'amoa. We have a rich history. So if you know, especially with the Whalefa, if you go back and look at your own mythologies and how your deities were passed down, a lot of our history are hidden deep within those. And vast majority of those names, like the Maui, the Tangaloa, which are god deities for us, it is believed that the Tangaloa were a tribe in Ha'amoa, the Maui tribes were a tribe in Fiji.
All right, no worries. Thank you for sharing that, Daniela. Appreciate it for sharing that history. Just want to go with some live comments real quick. I see Selena Paquitoa said, so good. Hey, thank you so much, Selena. Shout out to you watching the podcast. Too Wonderful said, I agree with Savage. This is just like the Welcome to America movie with Eddie Murphy, king in Africa and an employee at McDonald's in the United States. Thank you so much. All right, no worries. Yeah, man. You know, you can be a king in Tonga, America. You're just average person. And then, of course, essence, Polynesian cultures were not materialistic before the church arrived with their queen's instructions to spy on us. All right, no worries. Thank you to everybody out there. Thank you for the always appreciate you guys in the live chat sharing what you guys think. And don't forget, man, smash that, press the like, there's a subscribe button real quick. I'm about to post the public link right now. I'm sorry I haven't posted it yet on the YouTube, so you guys can add on real quick. I have a question for you guys real quick, and this is a question that one of my followers asked me, who are from the younger generation. I know obviously you guys talk about the culture, traditions, the history, the knowledge. I think Savage brought it up. Savage said that it's important to know your roots because it's part of your identity as a person. I just want to give you some pushback for some of the younger generation. What they're saying is like, I want to ask you guys, why is it to know the culture in Western society? Because a lot of times, well, what some people are saying is, what is the benefit of practicing the culture and knowing the culture in Western society when there's a lot of things that a lot of the newer generation or the younger generation may say, you know what? I know sometimes we talk about respect and the elders, respecting the elders, but a lot of the younger generation is saying, especially to Beppe and Seka, the older generation, the ones not giving us a voice to speak up and talk about the things that we're limited to what we can share and talk about because the respect is only the elders have respect, but not the younger generation. So some people are saying, you know what? I think Taniela brought it up. Our elders never had any to build any kind of monetary value. Some Pacific Islanders growing up in Western society are saying, what's the purpose of benefit of being a Pacific Islander? And I think in Samoa you call it fa'alave. In Tonga we have fatongia. So like, I'm trying to grow financially in America, in Western society, but my culture, my tradition is holding me back financially because, like Savage said, I have to send money back to the islands, back to the Tonga. So my culture and my tradition is holding me back in my growth. So like, because this is a conversation sometimes some people are having, especially that you guys said the Generation X, Generation Z, that they may not see value in the culture. They may not see any benefit to keeping up this culture. This is more the older generation that we're just trying to hold on to it, or maybe the Pacific Islanders that grew up in the islands. We're trying to keep hold of these values and this culture. But what are the generation that's growing up in Western society? A lot of them saying is like it's kind of holding them back. So what is the purpose? Why is it so important to keep up with something when there's a lot of things that may work in Tonga? I think with the analogy from Mr. Wonderful, you can be a king in Tonga, but if you take those same island principles, the same island mindset, the same island traditions, and try to apply it here in Western society, it doesn't have any value to build the type of life that you would want in Western society. So what's your, I guess, argument and thoughts about that? Because I do believe it is important to keep up the culture, but I want to hear your thoughts because this is the other side of especially the younger generation. This is what they're saying, and I want to hear your guys' thoughts of why do you keep to something when there's a lot of issues trying to grow in Western society to build a life here, when some of the things that we practice or it's normalized here in our culture are the very things that may be kind of hindering them as far as Western society. I want to hear your thoughts about that. Like, what do you think about that question? So I guess the question is, why is it important? Why is it important for any Pacific Islander to keep up their culture, to keep up the traditions in Western society, if they want to grow and live a very abundant life in society, especially like success, finances, and the things that we do in Western society? What's your thoughts about that? I'll start with you, Pepe. Pepe, what do you think?
What do I think?
Yeah, what do you think? Well, for the Pacific Islanders that grew up here, saying there's no need for culture. I don't need my language. I don't need my culture to grow here in Western society. Like, what's your argument to those Pacific Islanders? What do you have to say? Why do you think it's important for them to keep up their culture?
Like those that don't want to be like, are you saying like the I guess the generation that are saying I don't need to be Pacific Islander because what is it going to do for my life? That's what you're saying, yeah?
No, I'm not saying Pacific Islander because we're Pacific Islander. But what I'm saying, what's the purpose of keeping up the Pacific Islander culture and tradition when there's our culture tradition, like I said, the biggest one that they always say is the younger generation. My parents never give me a voice. The respect to our parents. Whatever the parents say, we cannot speak back. And if we speak back to our parents, no matter the context, it's always seen as disrespect. So
Yeah.
that value is like, what's the purpose of trying to keep up that when I can't? Because I want to speak up in America. I want to be able to express myself in America, in Western society, because that's how that's the norm here in Western society. Like, what's your thoughts?
I think first of all, I would address it instead of like I would address it in the sense of, you know, there's so much beauty in our culture. First of all, there's so much beauty in our culture in the sense of like, I get what you're saying, but what I'm saying is like on the flip side, like I think the reason why there's so much of all of that, or I guess the reason why that mindset is there is clearly placed on like I guess cultural trauma, should I say, or can I blanket that as cultural trauma? Like I can say that I've come from that. We'll come from that. I've seen it growing up. Like when I really have something so big to tell mom and dad and stuff, and they're like, now's not the time, go sit down. Or when I want to add something in a certain conversation, they're like, you can't speak because you're too young. Or I'm like, but I witnessed it. I know, I can tell you. And they're like, no, you can't have a say, go sit down. Like certain things like that to shut me up. And then I go home. I go in my little room and I cry and I'm not important and blah, blah, blah. I blame my culture, whatever. On the flip side of that, like for me, I'm like, man, when you get to a certain age, you start to realize the beauty in the culture that you're surrounded in. And not only that, I feel like it comes from a lack of education as well. In regards to like I love when Taniela was talking about like the history and stuff, because for me I'm like it's kind of new to me hearing certain things, but I'm like what he's saying, like but it's actually it's encouraging me to actually go and actually look it up even more and kind of educate myself, because I'm like that's so beautiful to hear, like whether it's wrong, whether it's right, whether it's bad, whether it's all of that, like I love hearing things, certain things like that. For me, there's beauty in our culture, and I think, in regards to the flip side that I am talking about, like I might get backlash. I might get backlash for what I'm saying, but like, we, because we're a team, we as beautiful brown people. I love that we are kind of like we are immersed in culture. I would rather be here than like from Europe. For me, this is just me, like an uncultured place. Like what does it stand for? Does that make sense? Yeah, never makes sense.
Let me just dive into that. I think I love the Christian faith. Well, I think the best thing for me is look at culture. Look at certain cultures that have lost our culture. I think that's the best thing to do. They're like, we don't need like certain traditions. We don't need certain cultures. Like, look at societies which have lost our culture. They regret losing their culture. You don't meet anyone that's older that doesn't say, man, I wish I didn't learn the language. No, they always say, I wish I knew the language. I wish I went back home. Yeah. There's always this. So I think the best thing to do is actually to challenge them. It's like, hey, speak to people who are not in contact with their own culture. Speak to people who have lost their culture in that sort of sense.
And in Europe,
speak to people like, I'm not just saying this, but Hawaii, who've lost, who trying to. No, what I'm saying is they're trying to bring their language back. Like that's what I mean. So the best thing to tell the Generation Z is like, man, speak to someone who is not identified in the culture and has lost their culture in that sort of sense. Yeah. And I think that's the best way to actually educate them that it's so important, because we have people who live in this world that have actually lost it. And I'm like, and it's something that you won't regret. Yeah. So that's how that's my point of view about it.
All right, no worries. Thank you for sharing that, Pepe and Sega. I'll pass it to you, Savage. Savage, what do you think, Savage? Like, why is it, for the younger generation, the people that may have any, the generational responders that may push it back against the culture, like, why is it important for them to know their culture and value the culture in Western society? Like, what's your thoughts on that? Why is it important?
Just to clarify, you're saying why is there backlash coming from the youth, the younger generation, right?
Yeah. I mean, there's the younger generation. A lot of them who may not know the culture, may not have the knowledge, or maybe they don't speak the language. A lot of them may say, you know what? Why do I need it? Why do I need to keep up with these things that my parents are teaching me, because obviously you mentioned in Savage Islands, in Western society, sometimes the things that our culture has no value here in Western society. It has value in the islands, but if you want to live a very Western life, a very productive, successful life in Western society, and grow here, some of the things, that's practiced in islands may not work here in the Western society. So like, what's the point of keeping up with these traditions and value, even though some of you guys may believe in keeping up with it, but there is the other side is, you know what, I don't see any value in it, but I would love to hear your input of why, because I know you're big into culture. I know you're big into the history. Why is it important for that person to know your history, to know your roots of where you come from?
Yeah, definitely. That's going to do with a lot for me personally. Just my answer. A lot of that's going to do with perspective, because a kid here in America won't appreciate the cultural values and traditions. Why? Because they didn't grow up in it. You could say, "Oh, I grew up the Tongan way," but really, what is the Tongan way if you've never actually been back to Tonga? Whereas in a Tongan kid who grew up and was raised in Tonga comes to America, values such little. Let me tell you something. My cousin, shout out to my cousin Kele Cee, when he came from Tonga to America, this guy would only ask for the littlest. Like my mom would give him $1, and that was like the greatest thing in his life. You know what I'm saying? Here we are getting $20 allowances, and $1, this kid could make a whole meal, right? He could make a whole meal, get some soy sauce, salt, put it in the saimini, and he could make a buffet for himself. That's perspective. Why? Because he can do so much with very little. Whereas in somebody like me, I complain that, Mom, I don't want to take him out because all he does is just, and he doesn't speak English. Well, what can I teach him? Little do you know. I mean, when, he's willing to learn, and he did grow up a little bit English. He's very into the Western music. He can dance, but I would have never known that if I didn't allow him the chance to express himself. So the importance of culture and why the kids need to know is that culture doesn't devalue you. It gives you depth. It gives you so much, like, how would I say? If you thought that growing up in America was like something to brag about, okay, what happens when you leave America? Where's your value now? Well, it doesn't matter because, we number one country with money and all this other stuff. Okay, but when it comes to mingling, socializing, what do you have to offer and put on the table? Not much, do you? Right, because you either take and appropriate from everyone else and say it's yours and make money off of it, or even worse, you quiet everyone. That's fine. It's totally fine. But to the islanders, right? Plastic, fie poto or fie poco, whatever. All these terms and stuff is all perspective, because I'm fortunate enough to have go back. I've gone back home and I've lived here to know that I would rather be here because I couldn't survive there, but I appreciate the sacrifices that were made for me to be here. So it's about being humble and respecting that fact and knowing the truth is, Savage, you wouldn't survive. You would not survive back in the islands. But that's not a bad thing. That is not a bad thing. The importance is that you know that is the truth and you uphold that to the best of your knowledge, because should one day it gets way too expensive here in America and you decide to move back to the islands because you have a little bit of property there, you better know how to live and survive, which I'm fortunate enough to my uncles and aunties who raised me to have that knowledge, because it is important as me as a youth. I'm what they call a millennial, between Z and X and whatever, DVD, ABC, STD, I don't care. But the backlash from the kids, it's understandable because our parents didn't have time. And I honestly don't blame the adults. When we got here, like I said, I'm 33. I was born in 88. And when I was growing up, I was mad at my parents. I was mad at my grandparents for not being American enough. I don't want to take you to my dances. I don't want to take you to my events because you don't know English and everyone makes fun of me when you wear that shit. I don't want to show that. Why can't you guys just be normal? Why can't you be American? And then you come to find out all your friends think your grandma, your grandpa, your mom and dad is cool because of that uniqueness. You're the only one tripping because you never found value in it. And so it's really just the gap that needs to be covered now. by people like us. When we get to talk about this and highlight it on a platform, that little kid, that little boy, that little girl gets to hear this and say, shit, man, I don't want to get emotional. I'm cool. Like, wait, me being Pacific Islander is cool? Yeah, it is cool. It is very cool. It's okay if you're a little fob. It's okay if you have an accent. It's okay if people laugh at what you're wearing, but just be you, because if you somewhere down the line decide to be, 50, 60, and that's not bad, but if you decide to be Pacific Islander later on in life, I don't think anybody's going to care by that time. So, yeah, that's just my take on it.
All right, no worries. Man, thank you for sharing that, Savage. And shout out to all the fobs out there, represent, all the fobs out there. Former fob. Hey, anyways, pass it on to Taniela. Taniela, what do you think? Why is it so important, to keep up your Pacific Islander culture and traditions in a Western society? Why is it important? What difference does it make?
It makes all the difference. And it comes from three great traits that inherently every Pacific Islander has. And I'm going to prove it later on. First one is we are fearless navigators. Second, we adapt like crazy. No, I don't know any other race that can adapt like a Pacific Islander. And not only that, third, is that the way that we communicate, our oratory capacity is like no other.
Interesting.
Ruthless navigators and adaptation. You have a map of the world and you throw something at it at random, wherever it lands in. I guarantee you there's a Pacific Islander living in that area. We're probably the only race, if we want to call it that exists all around the globe. And we adapt. You put us in a Eurocentric environment, we adapt. You put us in an all-black environment, we adapt. You put us in an Asian environment, we adapt. In an indigenous environment, we adapt. And the way that we pass on oratory, look at our creatives. Although we may not be out there in the grand stage of things, but the way that we navigate, even how we interact with each other in normal day-to-day, we cut around the bushes and we sugarcoat things and we paint a grand scheme of a story prior to getting to the point. We're the only people that can do that. So why is it very important for youngsters who may have been born outside of their homeland? Because in order for you to move forward, you have to look at the past. There's a very unique concept to us that is called the mana. The mana ties us to our ancestors, and not only that, to our future generations. And why is this important? There's an analogy that I like to use, and that is the passing of the torch. As children and as youth, we should always look at our parents and study them. How are they holding the torch? Is it too close to them? Is it way too in front of them? Are they holding it with two hands? When it is our turn and the torch is being passed on, which may be tradition, core values, principles that we live by, when it is passed on to you, it's your job from the time spent with your parents to learn a new way of holding the torch, a new way of guiding your life forward. That analogy to me makes sense in the way that we should learn your culture, learn your history. Then you get to know how your people have navigated whatever it is that was a barrier to them. Before it was the ocean. Now it's institution. Now it's systems. Now it's, racism and colonialism institution. And this is why when I have discussions about institutional racism, I hate it when my people, and I'm talking about everyone from the Moana, say that we are marginalized. No, we're not. We are a tribe of many tribes who have navigated the Pacific Ocean, one of the vast ocean in the whole entire world. And you're telling me we can navigate an institution that we know exactly how to navigate. We can communicate far better than any other tribe or any other race in the way that we just tell our stories.
Yeah.
And not only that, we're ruthless. We prove that in crime. Whenever when we contribute to statistic of crime, we go all out. How about we turn that same ideologies and put that into something that benefits us? So these are the things that I pass on. You're a navigator. It's inherent to every Pacific Islander. You adapt like crazy. No other race can come close to how well we can adapt. Not only that, communication. It's so beautiful the way that we articulate things that I haven't, and this may show my age, but I have not come across any other race that can mimic or come close to the way that we can spin stories and create just artistry with just how we speak.
Yeah. All right, no worries. Thank you, Taniela. Thank you for sharing. Just want to go over some comments real quick. Infinite Live shared, Western society beat the language out of my elders. I think us kids stopped talking because we learned not to speak up. Nobody wants to hear genocide and denationalization. We tough it out. All right, thank you, Infinite Lives. Thank you for sharing. I know Eleanor Lavolos, I wouldn't survive either. Thank you for sharing that. So Spirit Father the Savage. And I see Favela Molassi. Yes, there's only 2 of us Islanders here in Belgium. Oh, wow. Shout out to you guys. I know Belgium is known for their beer, so if you have a beer, drink some beer for me right now. You guys got some good beer. And I see 2 wonderful to be Pacific Islanders because we always make our Palagi friends buy more beer or else we beat them up, man. All right. All right. Thank you guys for everybody. Oh, I see one person one more time. Shout out, the first one on the chat. Shout out to Micaela Tuhata. My grandfather left home at 14 and went to work, moved to the Cook Island, and he lost his language. And it's sad because the way he talks about it, as if he had lost his identity.
That's right. That's it.
All right, shout out to you guys, man.
Hey,
The live chat is lit tonight. Thank you guys for sharing and all of our different parts. Yep.
Hey, can I just comment on something?
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I mean, this is probably going to be a viral moment, so I just want to be sure that I let you know that everything I'm about to say, I mean it from my heart, and I don't mean no hate towards anyone. But even now, right? So, like, a lot of the youth that I work with, a lot of our boys, well, just the boys that I work with, I wanted to bring this up earlier, but I forgot. It was a point I wanted to touch up on about even with the culture of the mahu or the fafafinge, the fakaleiti, in our culture. It existed. It existed far before the Western societal construct of being gay, lesbian, straight, because it wasn't a sexual thing. Whether it was third gender, two-spirited, in the home that I come from, my elders in Neafu, in the island of Vava'u, the story of Hikuleo, whether it be, colonial after the point, was that it wasn't really specified if she or he was a man or a woman, but our deity was Hikuleo in the manner that, he or she's supposed to return and burn all of Pulotu. Now, that's just the prophecy. But I bring that up to highlight this. Even if your cousin is gay growing up, right? I had one, and my uncle was gay, and I never knew it was a bad thing until I, of course, went to church, and then I got into school and realized that the F word was bad, and they were, a lot of these things all of a sudden became bad towards our own brothers and sisters because it was actually normalized before church and all that ever came in. And so why I bring this up is this. As people who descended from great navigators, we were out there long periods of time in the ocean. And I, as a man, I had to imagine this. If I was a man on a boat with other men for months on end, possibly years, looking for other islands, somebody here is going to help me release. I'm a man with needs, and right now I'm feeling a bit horny, so one of you guys is going to give it up. I'm so sorry, but that's just the way it is. And whether that was status, ranking, or you lost in the war, so we took you so we can use you, either way, you fulfilled your role. And the crazy thing about it was, I'm not saying, look, it's SA is SA. Sexual assault is a thing nowadays. But back then, you were privileged to live long enough to get fucked. And I'm sorry to say it that way, but, that's just how, when Taniela said we were ruthless, yeah, motherfucker, we were ruthless. And that's just the truth of the matter was that's how things played out back in the day, which is why a lot of people believe we couldn't live savagely like that because we are grateful that the white man brought Christianity and industry and politics to us, so we don't do that no more. When in actuality, that's still within us. You know what I'm saying? And at any moment in time, if I get pissed off, people know in America, people know us to be, oh, you're so big and friendly, until we're not. Right? What's the most dangerous thing in the world today? A Pacific Islander who has the brain and the muscles. That's something they don't see yet. And when that kid is ready to stand up and show him or herself, you're going to change the culture.
Yeah, Doko, you just ruined how I see our ancestors on the boats forever.
Legit.
Yeah, you just ruined it for me, Doko. Man, they were on those boats having a. Oh damn!
I'm done. I'm done.
All right, yeah. Thank you for sharing that, Doko Savage. Man, always appreciate it. I mean, there's some logic. I would say that there's some logic to your theory, Doko. I would say that it doesn't make
Just
sense.
a theory. It's just a theory until proven.
It makes logical sense. It makes logical sense. It makes logical sense. Anyways, thank you so much, Doko Savage. I appreciate everybody. I see everybody laughing right now on the live chat. Thank you so much. I appreciate you guys. But I want to move on to the next topic. I want to ask you guys real quick. So, obviously, we're talking about culture. We talk about the value and importance of Pacific Islanders to keep up their culture, to keep up their identity. And you guys brought up multiple reasons why they should keep it up. But I want to ask you guys: are there certain factors that occurred, whether in history or that's happening today, that you feel like that's trying to break up that culture that we have? I think Savage brought up an example of Christianity. A lot of people are saying that Christianity was one of the things that probably kind of like colonized us. It's kind of lose our identity, our culture to a bit, to kind of forget our superiority and our great significance as great navigators. To believe in ourselves, be confident in ourselves. Doesn't matter where we go. Like Taniela said, if we know our culture, if we know our ancestors, how great they are, of how powerful they are, it doesn't matter where we go, whether it's America, China, Japan. We should have confidence that we're going to go out there and dominate and build a great life. But there's a lot of people that may think that they don't have confidence in who they are because they don't know the history, or maybe Christianity had a part of it. But I just want to ask you guys real quick: are there certain things, whether it's back in the past, or maybe the kids are going through today, whether it's the modern culture, whether it's technology, whether it's social media, whether it's politics, what are there certain factors that we see today in Western society that Pacific Islanders should be aware about, that they're probably trying to break up our culture or force kids or pressure kids to lose their identity in themselves as Pacific Islanders? And I know Savage brought up Christianity. That was one of them, but I just want to ask you guys, like, do you guys see other things that you see today that you feel like that it has an influence on kids to kind of forget about their culture, to lose their culture, or run away from their culture? That's my question. I'll start with you, Pepe. That's my question. Do you have anything in mind? Do you see that you feel like that there's things that we're experiencing today that us, if we're not aware of it, that they might help, that may make us lose our culture or lose our identity as Pacific Islanders?
I want to hear what the boys have to say first.
All right, no worries. All right, I'll go to the fellas, and I'll come back to you, ladies. I'll start with you, Taniela. Taniela, what do you think, Taniela? Do you think that there's certain factors in Western society the Pacific Islanders should be aware about, that you feel like that, whether it's the past or modern society today, that there's a war, push us away from our culture and identity as Pacific Islanders?
Yeah, so I'm always under the belief that culturally is just practices. They're secondary to identity. I will always believe that me and myself and every other person who is Pacific Islander and my children and their children will be navigators. And they're just navigators of the ocean, Pacific Ocean. culture, to me, is a modern concept that we use as identity to the world. Because at the end of the day, when you're in your bed all alone, and if you're facing a very hard, crucial life decision, or you're down in the dumps, does it really matter if you're Samoan? Does it really matter if you're Tongan? What goes through your head? Am I a good enough person? Do I have any worth to the people around me? Which is why I always think that culture is somewhat secondary and supplementary to who we are as people. As people, to me, the what separates us from vast majority of the world is that the three qualities that I shared before, and those qualities that just we take on camaraderie like no other, and that's shown in the community work that we do when we get amongst a good cause, and we navigate all sorts of different environments. So in terms of instrument that are within current society that is potential to break that up, I think Christianity to a certain extent have cut a lot of the ties. But there's actually a good reason in that sense. In the reason why Tongan conceded to the British Empire through Christianity was actually a matter of survival. At the time when King George the Boruaki of the Tu'ikanokpolu lineage was fighting in terms of who was going to rule essentially Tonga, British was essentially all over the Pacific at the time. And not only that, there was great threat from the north, which is Samoa. And the threat were that the Tuitonga, because the Tuitonga broke their lineage or their promise to Ha'amoa in terms of the Taboos marriage back to the Tuitonga, there were the increase in assassinations to the Tui lineage at the time increased manifold. So you've got two threats. You've got Great Britain, and not only that, you've got Ha'amoa. And not only that, our people were extremists in the sense that if we went to tribal warfare, we went to tribal warfare. But we respected mana. So the reason why George the Boruaki, he was known to be a warrior, but he was more known within his cohort as a strategist rather than a warrior. And it's speculated that his strategy was to hide our history through not only our cultural items and songs, but through our talatupua. Because if we didn't concede to Britain, we would have been massacred. And the reason why we wouldn't have been massacred, because every Tongan wouldn't put down their flag to fight anyone who sort of tries to invade. So it was a strategy to preserve our ways of life and to preserve our history. Now, there is slow release of our actual history now coming up into light. There is a royal family or a servant of the royal family to Tonga who's now releasing bit by bit of our history. I guess it's at the right time where we no longer are in the days of where Great Britain had the power to essentially invade and nothing was going to be done to them. The preservation of our history, actually, Savage mentioned it. Hiku Leo, it is this discussion that we have within the Tongan community that Hiku Leo was actually a woman, and the evidence for that is the way that we have kept up the whahu and the mhikitanga. The reason why there is always a woman and it's the oldest woman is because it's believed that Hiku Leo was the oldest of the three sort of deities at the time. And the reason why we pay respect to the eldest sister of the family is that she represents the wrath of Hiku Leo. And if we were to disrespect her hierarchy or her ranking within the Tongan family, then we are essentially disrespecting Hiku Leo. I know I'm going on a bit too far, but essentially, we may look at actual practices that we've done before our time and think that we're losing our culture and our history, but I don't think so. I think there are certain values that still remains within us and will forever remain within us. We can argue otherwise that is our culture and that we're losing it, especially with languages. But to me personally, I don't think so. I think those three inherent value is going to outlasts the vast majority of things. If Christianity has come forth and has manifested in ways of our islands, but these three things have still survived, and it seems like it's somewhat genetic to us, that even with Christianity, we still navigated the world. Even with Christianity, we still learned how to be poetic and how to articulate, and even in the English language, right? Some of our youngsters don't even know their own language, but the way that they navigate the English language is just quite beautiful in the way that they display that. So those three inherent values will always be with us. The way that we may practice our tradition might change, but I think ultimately as people, it's too ingrained into us. And if you're going to hold on to something, hold on to those three, because that's what identifies you other than any other race.
All right, no worries. Thank you for sharing that, Taniela. I'll pass it to you, Savage. Savage, same thing, same question. Like, what do you think that there's certain factors that Pacific Islanders are experiencing today in Western society or happened in the past that kind of pushed on the breakdown of our culture throughout generations? I know you brought up Christianity, that was an example, but I just want to use that example. What do you think? What do you think, Savage?
So yeah, I guess I'll pick up where I left off with Christianity. Jesus or God is not the problem. It's the people teaching this shit. That's a fucking problem, right? Because anybody can pick up a Bible and interpret what they think versus what you feel. If you were saved and you believe you saw Jesus walk into the room and told you to put those drugs down, and that's why you've been sober for 9 years, by all means, brother, you don't have to explain any more than that. If Jesus saved you in that, then I believe you, But if you're going to tell me if I don't read this book and I don't pay my tithes and offering, well, you're going to hell, kiss my ass. I'd rather go to hell where all my ancestors are. You know what I'm saying? Because the sad part about it is interpretation is a motherfucker. It's so like, I can tell you right now that, Tongans enslaved Samoans, and that's the history. Of course, I'm Tongan. However, if a Samoan tells you the history, what's the problem? Well, that's not what I heard. I grew up in Tonga. Yeah, dumbass, you grew up in Tonga. You didn't grow up in Samoa. So why are you discrediting their history, right? So as me growing up in a Western culture, I had to learn that the hard way. Not everything I heard about every other race was true, because I had to do what? Experience it for myself. Just like the guy who told me about Jesus saving his life, if he didn't read a book, but he knew it was Jesus by his experience, brother, you don't have to tell me. You're doing better. You got a wife, you got kids, you've been sober for 9 years, you got a wonderful job, you do great things with the community. I don't need to hear anything more than that, right? But the disconnection comes when we remove the experience. When we remove the experience, no longer is anybody credible, because anybody can read a book, watch a video, or hear a story, and all of a sudden you're validated. That sucks. It absolutely fucking sucks. Like if I told you right now that the king of Tonga descends from one of the final lines of the age of Tu'i, you would look at me and be like, how do you know that to be true? Well, I don't. We don't know we honestly don't know how many more lines were still left behind, because King Tautauatalk at the time in the 1700s was formally the first monarch. He's the first monarch, but it never discouraged or disconnected the lines of the Tu'i. Never. They're still out there. The sad part about it is we don't know who they are anymore. Will, you could be from one of the lines. Taniela could be from one of the lines. But the reason why we don't know that, the experience is gone. The oratory is missing. So now when we hear shit like, oh, well, that's why we're the greatest people on the earth. What proof do you have to substantiate that? You can't just say shit out of your ass and have your kids being narcissistic. If my son or daughter goes out there in the world and starts telling everybody we're the greatest people on the earth, someone is going to humble them. And that sucks, because of all the shit that I misinformed them with, which is truly important. Why it goes back to what we were talking about earlier when this started, was talking at home first. We got to attack at home first. We got to talk to the kids. If my son or daughter out there in the world and misinform other people, I take full responsibility for that. That's my fault. I apologize, right? Because if I don't know what the hell I'm talking about, they for sure aren't going to know what the hell they're talking about. You get what I'm saying? But the beauty in is it now growing up in the age that we're in with the access of technology, we can host a podcast where we can all connect. You know, one of the coolest stories I ever heard right now is this dude, Malia Toa, right? I don't know if this is true, but the version I heard is a lot more better. I hope somebody makes a movie about this. This guy got tired of sitting in Samoa and said, you know what? I'm tired of all this shit. If you guys won't fight with me, I'm going to walk over there and I'm going to chase them out myself. Apparently, this guy was naked when he did it. He was naked. He was naked the whole time when he chased the Tongans out. And that's absolutely, you know how dope it would be to see a Samoan man in a movie walking around naked, whooping a bunch of Tongans' asses and making that a historical value? I would watch that with top dollar. But you know why that's not important?
You're stupid, Savage. You're stupid.
But we don't teach it. You know, there's a little Samoan boy and girl or Tongan boy and girl who doesn't see representation. And the importance of that is, once again, going back to identity. If we don't hold the stories, if we don't hold the information to give them, then all they're going to see is themselves. I want to be Beyonce. Why do you have to be Beyonce? Why can't you be Dini or why can't you be Dinah? You know what I'm saying? So right now we're in that age where we're now peaking over where our younger generation, they are definitely unapologetic. Give a shit. They're not listening to us. My little brother and sister, they don't listen to nothing I tell them. And I love it because they're going out there and getting the experience. But should they ever need a place to call home and come back and hum themselves, I'll be right here. But right now, I mean, as it stands, I don't blame Christianity. I don't blame politics. It's the fact that this might be dangerous to say. It's a little bit of the indoctrination. We're not aware of how far disconnected we are because of how much we lost. That's why. I hope that makes sense.
All right, no worries. Thank you, Savage. Thank you, Savage, man. Pass it to you, ladies. Pepe and Sega, what do you think? Are you think that there are certain factors that's kind of influence us as responders that's kind of had a part in breaking down our culture, or why so many responders feel like that they don't need to value their culture as much as they should? What do you think?
Question again? Sorry, can you repeat the question, Will? I'm still thinking about when Savage described his the Maletor movie.
He was naked. We need to see that.
That was too much, man. That's too much. Will, what was your question?
But how do you know he was naked? Hey.
You know, he had leaves. You know, Adam and Eve had the leaves as well. So you know what I mean?
He's really a lover. What are you talking about?
You got something of nakedness, man. Honestly.
The question is, like, you know, are there certain things that you see that happen in history, or are there certain social influences that we see in Western society that you feel like that is causing young perseverers or perseverers in general to lose their identity, to lose their culture? That has a big impact on that. Do you guys see anything that's happening today or in the past that you feel like that had an influence of breaking our culture and as perseverers and our traditions?
I think a lot of it, like Sam said, it starts at home. Like a lot of it starts at home. I believe like a lot of our younger generation are looking at certain circumstances that their parents are living in, and they don't like it. So they will go out and join gangs or go to alcohol and stuff like that. And because they're thinking, like, why would I want the culture when, look at our living circumstances. You're putting everything into love is, or I don't know about what stuff like that. So what they do is they go to the extreme. They're like, if I can't find it in my culture, I gotta find it in something else. You know what I mean? So I believe I think I've always said it. There are certain toxic things in our culture. But there's certain beautiful things in our culture. And I like what Taniela said. He goes, culture is different from identity. Now, obviously,
I love that.
Culture is how we how we do things. But identity is our values. What do we really believe in? And at the end of the day, when we die, it's only going to be our bones left. You know what I mean? But culture does tie to identity. But at the end of the day, what is that? So I think for me is a lot of it is we teach our kids. It starts at home. It's the things they do. The reason why the kids don't want to know the culture is because it's at home. It's not taught the way it's meant to be taught. It's not valued the way it's meant to be valued. A lot of things always stem from the home place, and I think that's where a lot of the rejection comes from with the younger generation, is because they don't see the value of it, and has been taught the right way at home. In regards to Christianity, I think there's a difference between Christianity and Jesus himself, the gospel. I believe gospel does change people's lives, as evident of what Savage said. It's changed my life, honestly, and that evidence and say so. I believe it's two things, and but it's funny because we say that Christianity came in and totally changed our culture, but if you go to a lot of the cultural churches, which is the culture is so alive in those churches, you know what I mean? So it can go two ways or the other. But I believe if you have a true gospel, I believe it will change your life, and it's a beautiful thing. So because we are women of faith, so but I believe it goes two ways, because it's funny, because it's funny, people are like, our culture's dead because Christianity came. But have you been to cultural churches lately? Like Psalm 1 churches? The culture is so alive. So like I said, it's the interpretation of what the gospel really means and stuff like that. So that's how we take it, because we can come from both point of ways. We've been to a traditional cultural church, and we've been to a church who really loves the gospel and loves what Jesus can do in his life. So I guess it runs both ways, but I totally believe that it starts at home. I think that if we get it right in regards to culture, how we teach our kids, how we speak to our kids, I believe there'll be an overflow of hope like never before. So that's where I'm coming from. So there is a difference in regards to that. So because I love when people say Christianity came and sort of severed our culture, but if you go to a lot of the churches now, it's like, man, it's like the culture is higher than above God. So it's done both ways. But the true gospel really does change, like Savage said, Island. So that's it.
All right, no worries. Shout out to all the churches out there.
All right, Singer, legit, like exactly what it is. Like I love when Singer brought up the fact that we're hearing stuff like, man, the church or Christianity like kind of stifle. Is that the word?
Yeah, kind of sort of broke away from the culture.
Kind of, kind of stumbled a bit in culture. But mate, if you go to New Zealand, if you go to here in Australia, like definitely here in Australia, like when you go into a Samoan Methodist church or Samoan Ethics church, the culture is so thick, it's probably thicker than the islands itself. Like they do more traditional things in the island itself. Like, the only thing is they don't eat people. Like it's so strong, it's so thick in the sense of, but I don't think Christianity, like in that sense. Like I am a proud saved woman, like I guess in the sense of like being Samoan is a part of me. We've said this before, but I'm also a mother. That's a part of me. I'm also a daughter. That's a part of me. And I love when Taniela was talking about the identity thing, because I feel like, yes, I am cultured, but that doesn't fully identify who I am. I just thought I'd just put that.
All right, no worries. Thank you, Pepe. Let me go to some comments real quick. I think Too Wonderful said a shout out to the Church of the NFL. See ya next month. Haha. Thank you, Too Wonderful. I think Selena said, come on, Segavao. Hey, shout out to you, Selena Pakitoa. Thank you so much for your live comments. And Favale Moalasi said to the Samoan guy, to Savage, that was my great-great-grandfather you were talking about.
Guys, just FYI, don't pay attention to him, bro.
No worries. I want to ask you guys a question. So I think Pepe and Sega mentioned, I think Savage too, and I think Taniela, you guys mentioned it. I think everything starts at home. So I do believe in that. Everything starts at home when it comes to teaching our values and our culture as Pacific Islanders in this Western society. But I want to ask you uh, what are the things that you feel like that we have to prepare more than ever to our young kids um, at home, that we have to make sure they're fully prepared so they can prepare for themselves in Western society. Obviously, that you guys live in Western society, there's a whole culture of Western society that's social norms that's probably goes against the very things and values that we believe in. There's the casual sex, having kids before marriage, having sex before marriage, porn, there's all these things that we see today in drinking, smoking, doing drugs, partying, going to clubs. These are all new and social norms that's happening today in Western society that maybe normalize behavior. But so question is what are things that are happening in modern society today that you're concerned about, that you put a big emphasis with your kids at home to make sure that these, even though if you go to school and see these things that they may be considered normal behavior or normal Western society, but when you come home, I want to make sure I'm gonna prepare my kids to tell them a different message. Hey, I know you see this at school. I know you see this with your friends. I know you see this in social society. But that is not something that I would recommend. These are the values I'm going to teach you, because this is the thing that you needed to know. Because but don't listen to your friends and what the world is saying, because this is the age of social media, where all our kids, and even us, we're all on social media. We see content. We get influenced by social media. We get influenced by our friends. But so you guys brought up the value of making sure everything starts at home. But just want to bring up the question, like, what are things in modern society that you're concerned about, that has a big influence to us, has a big influence to the next generation, that we as Pestilentists, we need to put a lot more work at home to make sure that our kids or our future generation doesn't succumb to it and fall, take the wrong path or make the wrong choices and get the consequences that we often see today in modern society. So I'll start with the fellas real quick, and I'll come back to you, ladies. What are the things in modern society that you're concerned about, that you're gonna that you're gonna focus more, because everything starts at home, to make sure that you focus this at home with your kids, so they don't be succumb to it, of the things that we see that's normal, normal behavior, normal in social in Western society, but it goes against the very values and beliefs that you believe in, not only as a person, but as a person founder. I start with you, Taniela. What do you think?
In terms of what I can only identify things out in society that could be a threat to my family, especially my children, right? I can't control it. And no level of disparities and disagreement that I would have would ever change society as a whole. But I can flag them and identify them, and I can sort of, I can find ways of teaching my children how to navigate that world. I'm more concerned with my son because I'm a male. Right, and I think true leadership from young men will bring a society together, and women are allowed to flourish in the ways that they only can. But it starts with men standing up and taking on values and principles that allows women to bring in their nature. And this is the whole discussion with femininity and masculinity that we usually get into in the discussion. But how do I do that? So a big part of my practice with my son is that I get him to read, write, and do maths. And it's very simple. The simplistic outlook on that is, I need you to do maths, because out in life there are recurring patterns and there are formulas to everything in life. Things may not repeat itself, but there are similarities in things. There are patterns to life. There are patterns in your behavior. You need to recognize that from a very simple point. And not only that, identify and figure out solutions to it. Reading and writing. Writing helps with arranging his thoughts. As a young kid who's only turned 9, the chaos of the mind is everywhere. So by teaching him how to write is to teach him how to learn to reorganize his thoughts in a way where he can comprehend them at a very simple level. And to read to expand the way your mind looks at the world and how you think, and expand your imaginations. Those are simple practices that I do with my son. And I truly believe that if I get that right, then everything out in life, he's going to figure it out on his own. The second thing that I teach him is that challenge everything, even me. But if you're going to challenge me, you need to come from a point or perspective that you have already provided a solution to why you're challenging me. If I'm telling you to go to bed early, it's something that you want to challenge, you need to come to me and challenge me with a solution at least. And that's my concept of passing on mana. Mana begets mana. So challenge me with mana and bring that to the table. I don't believe in this whole thing about safe spaces for men. I believe in brave spaces. My son should mimic that. And he should challenge me if he thinks that there are ways better to how I'm operating as a man. And if he provides an alternative, I'm more than willing to listen to him. So we like to look at a lot of traditional practices, and it's often lost in translation. Why do you practice certain things? It's just the values. And I think the way that I've sort of tried and sort of molded that in the way where my son can understand it. He may not understand the ma'ulu or taolonga or all of those things, but he can understand simple things like writing. He can understand simple things like reading. And I'm also in the discovery sort of phase of a way where I can devise up some sort of rite of passage. I think it's what has been beneficial for our people is that men went through a rite of passage where they learn how to hone their anger and aggression, learn to dissect the emotions that they go through and channel it in a way where it benefits them with responsibilities and meanings to themselves, their family and their community. I'm currently in sort of a research kind of journey at the moment into looking into what were the practices that our Pacific Islander ancestors did in terms of rite of passage. And that to me is a very important concept that I hope to pass on to my son, what it is to be a man essentially, and how does that hold in terms of your contribution to the people around you, especially the women that you interface with. You know, these are a very important part of society. And I'm not going to go into the whole, the other side of it, this whole gender debate. As far as I know, Pacific Islanders did not believe in gender. We did have a third sex, which is the whawhawhinge, the whakareiti. We did have that. And we held them to high regards in terms of their interaction with society. That I believe in and that I treasure. But I don't believe in this whole bullshit about gender and these all different things. And it's very unfortunate that some of our Pacific younger generation have sort of fallen into that mindset of gender is indigenous to us. No, it's not. We had different ways of appreciating and putting them in high regards, and the way that they interface. The whawhawhinge, for example, in Hamoa, were great hands. They did a lot of duties both in between the sexes that the vast majority of my family who lived in Hamoa for a very long duration of time praises them and how their contribution to each family essentially raise that family's sort of status within that community. So yeah, I think teaching my son how to recognize patterns and how to reorganize his thoughts, I think that can be mimicked in any way that you want to have it. Not only that, challenge everything. You know, why do you feel the way that you feel when someone says a certain thing to you? Why, when the world goes a certain direction, you have a certain reaction to it and respond to it accordingly. So, yeah. All
right, no worries. Yeah, I totally agree with you, Taniela. You know, well, I'm a big believer in strong men, leadership men, making men of responsibility and strong for their families. Yeah, that's something that we started to see in Western society that a lot of men are kind of going away from. So thank you for bringing that up. Thank you, Taniela. I pass it to you, Savage. Savage, same thing. Everything starts in the home. You have kids. I know you have beautiful kids. What are things that you focus on and emphasize at home to kind of make sure that they don't succumb to the many Western influences that they see out there in the world that may have some consequences if they do decide to follow what everybody else is doing?
Definitely. Well, first, I just, something Taniela said that just made me kind of tear up. Low key, these episodes and I want to shout out to everybody in the culture doing a podcast. It warms my heart that our grandparents who didn't get to see this, our brothers and sisters and cousins who didn't get to see this, that somewhere, wherever they may be, that they get to witness that this is how we're growing now in the new world, is even though we may be first, second, third generation here in the race, we're catching up. So now that we get to have this new dialogue, which, by the way, man, Taniela, that was probably the most solid piece of dialogue I've ever heard on the podcast since I've been featured every time Will brings me on. But you got to imagine, like, bro, this is so dope. The future generations of our children, our great descendants, are going to look back and watch this 100 years from now and be like, damn, grandma and grandpa really did that shit. You know what I'm saying? So, like, hi, guys. Yeah, this is grandpa. If you ever see me in the future, know that I'm with you. Yeah, man, you know, for me and my family at home, the most important thing me and my wife have to, and we're practice what you preach type of people. And that has nothing to do with culture, but the culture comes into it later. The first thing is, you know, if you feel something is wrong or off, it's okay to ask a question. I know in some places and countries, continents, it's against the law to have a freedom of speech. But here in America, we're fortunate. So if it doesn't feel right, baby, it's okay to ask a question. Don't worry. Ask a question. There's a reason why they don't teach us real estate and how to do business for ourselves. And if it doesn't feel right to you, ask a question, right? Second is when you're in pain, it's okay to be hurt. Sit, take some time. Don't be in a rush to go into the next thing, because some of the most, you know, preachy, corny bullshit that I've ever heard is, you know, love is so free and strong. Everybody can be in love. That's no doubt. I believe in that. But we also have to normalize when heartbreak comes. It's okay to be in pain. Baby, don't worry about it. When this storm passes, you'll be that much more stronger for it. You know what I'm saying? So we normalize that in the household, that if you are in pain, my son or my daughter, take your time, be hurt, sit in it for the minute that you are, discover about yourself was things you've never known. You know what I'm saying? It's important for our kids to know that. Last but not least, this really ties my family. You know, Taniela said the mana. This is the only thing I can pass on. Me and my wife. This is really the only thing that we as adults can pass on to the youth. Me and mommy don't know everything. The reason why you guys are going to be better than us is that you'll teach us what we don't know. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you don't know how to change a tire, son, I'll teach you. But if daddy doesn't know how to upload a YouTube, you teach me, right? Because, you know, I don't think that's one thing. I remember growing up, I never knew my parents didn't know a lot of things. I thought they knew everything, right? And the one time they made a mistake, man, it was bad. We like, I can't believe you fucked up. Dad, you cheated on mom. Yeah, because we're human beings. There's nothing wrong with that. We fuck up, we stumble. You know, we make mistakes. But if that's what they're going to be known for, man, this is a pretty bad start as a family. I make sure that my kids know daddy's the biggest loser, the biggest failure you're ever going to meet. So don't ever feel like you're not good enough. Don't ever feel like you can't do it. Don't ever feel like you have a direction in life, because I'll tell you right now, you're at a better start than where I was. I'm not telling you, I'm telling you that because that's what it was meant to be. The destiny is wherever you go in life, we go with you, right? So if daddy didn't know calculus or trigonometry or rocket science, guess what you can do now? You can go and do that. And when you're done and you're ready, you get your degrees and your doctorates and PhD. Come home, come tell me about it. I'll watch your kids and I'll tell them the great things you've done in your life and the bad things you've done in life, right? I really want that to get out there to the kids who are listening. If you're a new young parent, is that you're not going to know everything, and that's a blessing. That's a blessing. That's a blessing you don't know everything, because I'll never forget the day when I found out that I knew more than my parents, and it kind of hurt me. It hurt me a lot because I wasn't aware that I could know more than my parents. You know what I'm saying? They're supposed to be perfect. They're supposed to know everything. And when I'm talking to my mom about politics, she goes, "Well, I don't care. I just vote for where the money is." Mom, that's shallow. Why would you do that? You don't know the policies and things that come with it. Well, it's not her fault. She didn't have time to learn. So now I've learned that my mom didn't have time. She was working so much she couldn't sit down and read books. Now my mom's in the point I pushed her to go back to school. So I'm so happy because now she gets to catch up to where the world is today. But I'm saddened by the fact that I know a lot of our aunties, uncles, cousins, nieces, nephews, and grandmas and grandpas, they never got to experience that or have that opportunity because of the lack of motivation or maybe the lack of opportunity that we're not aware of. And so, with that is I start with that at home is first, if it doesn't feel right, it's okay to ask a question. Two, right? What was two? Fuck, now I just forgot. But two, oh yeah, two was if you're in pain, it's okay to hurt. It's okay to hurt. Don't worry about it. And then last but not least, mommy and daddy don't know everything. Mommy and daddy don't know everything. So that's what we do at our home. If that's helpful to any of you guys out there, take it. It's not mine. We're here to share what we know, and hopefully the kids can grow. So with that being said, yeah, that's it.
All right, no worries. Thank you so much, Savage. And then when your future kids look back at this Savage, they can know that they came from a lineage of Batman.
That's it.
Love that. Love
All right.
that. So
All
good.
right, shout out to you, Savage.
That's good.
But yeah, pass to you ladies. You got a chance to hear from the fellas. But yeah, you guys have I don't know if you guys have kids, but
Yeah.
everything starts at home. What do you focus on to make sure that your kids and your family members at home are fully prepared so they don't get influenced by the certain things in modern society that you may disagree with or you think it's gonna be hurtful for our future generation? I'll start with you, Pepe. What do you think, Pepe?
I am a mother and a wife. That's my husband, Favela Malassi. That's all of a sudden in Belgium. I'm a slightly different from Savage. See, Savage, obviously expressed how he, him and his wife don't know everything. Whereas my side, like, I know everything. Ain't nobody got to tell me. I'm drinking that. I know everything everywhere. No, I'm kidding. I think one of the main things, honestly, legit. I think one of the most important things for me, I guess, for my son, my kids, hey, is first of all is who they are in Christ, because and that won't. There's nothing that will kind of stifle me on that. Like, as long as my kids know who they are in Christ, because once they know who they are in Christ, they know who they are in general. The man that they become is the man that they become, but who we build for them, like what we make available for them to build who they are for the outside world, that's us. That's on us. I will do everything in my power to make sure that my kids, can be protected and sheltered. But I'm only gonna last like 98 years. I don't know about Savage. For so long, and then after that, the kids are going to go out and explore who they are and stuff like that. But one of the main things that I guess now, I can only speak from my experience. I can only speak from my parenting, and for me, I'm like, man, I'm so thankful that I've surrounded my kid with a community of people that all run the same race as his parents. And not to say that, everyone's doing the same thing, but it's to say it's okay to be who you are in Christ. It's okay to be them, he can look at his dad, he can look at his uncles and stuff like that. He can, a lot of our kids do that. They pick and from different, from different, I don't know what the word I'm looking for. It's from different something like that builds, who they are. Like for me as a parent, one of the biggest things that I would be so thankful for, I guess, is just creating a space where my kids will not only, learn and grow into the man of God that I know, I know that God has specific plans for my kids because, because their parents are gifted. So obviously the kids have to be gifted. Incredible far. No, but that's where I'm coming from. Like, I love the conversations that we're having. I love how open it is. I love, I came in because I did a bit of research myself as well, and I was like, oh, Savage is the one I have to watch out. This guy, and sure enough, he comes with a half painted face and no t-shirt. But just hearing him, especially the vulnerability side of things, because you know what, in our Pacific Islander men, it's not big.
Yeah,
that vulnerability that we all speaking of. It's not something that in common in our culture. Do you know what I mean? Like in the Pacific Island culture, and I love seeing that. I love us speaking about it. That's something that I wanna, prep my kids. It's okay to, like Savage said it clearly. It's okay not to be okay. You're allowed to cry. I don't know this bullcrap about men don't cry. I see my husband cry every time I leave the house. Hello, who would I cry at? Like, do you know what I mean? Though, like these certain things, like again, you're very true. It starts from home. Everything starts from home. But even at home, equip your kids. You know, equip your kids not so much the things that you lived without, you know, from, but equip your kids to always be better than you. Do you know what I mean? Like, because that's what you want. You want to leave knowing, I reached level 10, but my kids, level 200, you know what I mean? Like, I would rather surround and not only that, yes, I know Savage was like, yeah, your kids can be, you know, you can teach about love and blah, 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 but the highest quality for me anyway, is love, is love for Christ as well. Is God's love for us, man. Everything stems from love. And I feel like that's something I want to emphasize in my home and in my kids. It starts from God. And man, as long as you're right with the source, I guess, man, you're right everywhere else. Whatever stems from here. And I love this conversation. Thank you so much, Will, man. This is fire. Thank you, Taniela. I'm really encouraged by you as well. Yes. And Pacific Islander Batman.
Go ahead.
I don't have kids, but I think one thing that I do see, especially with that I would like to instill in my future kids is and what I see is I see a fatherless generation that's coming through in our children. Like we've got a lot of men, but we don't have a lot of fathers, and I think that's what needs to be.
a lot of daddies,
a lot of baby daddies and daddies, whatever you call them. But we don't have a lot of fathers, and I think that's one thing that I was gladly brought up into. Not only a strong culture, but a strong father figure in my life. And I think what that does is that gives me a perception as a woman what to go for and what to not to go for. Like what's there to protect you and what's not there to harm you. Now, obviously, my faith is number one, but I think what really helped me in regards to being there is my dad practiced what he preached. When he said that he was going to do something, he did it. And I think that can be in the context of a lot of things. If you're a woman of God, and if you're a woman of God at home, your children are going to be there. And I believe it's one of those aspects, like practice what you preach. What you want your kids to be, you have to walk it out yourself. And I think it's something that I learned not only from my dad, but I see it in the people that I'm around, and I see it, and I think that's what I want to do when I'm in regards to like kids and stuff like that. So when I do have my kids, but what I do see is a lot of kids growing up with no fathers, men in their lives, like what it is, but no fathers. And I think that's where a lot of our kids are going to gangs and are finding that comfort in that, especially here in Western, where we're from, in Western Sydney. That's a massive problem with these massive gang culture that's coming up. So I think that's something that I will really install into my kids. But besides that, but communication as well, communicating and not just communicating constantly. I think that's something that I want to do. But that's it for me, honestly.
No worries, ladies. Thank you for sharing that. You guys dropped some truth. Thank you so much. I'm gonna share some comments real quick. I said Sherry Paulo said Pepe fia poco mom. All right. Thank you for sharing, Sherry. I think Favela, this is her husband. He said Pepe doesn't know anything.
That's my husband. Guys, say hi to Favela Malasi.
All right, thank you for sharing.
Someone that cries when I leave.
And Selena Paquitoa said, so good, second vow, clap and fire emoji. All right, and then 2 Wonderful said, if I ever marry a woman of God, I promise it was only at bingo, not at the casino. LOL. All right, no worries. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. We have come to the conclusion of the podcast. Thank you so much for everybody. Your feedback on the live chat. Thank you so much for tuning in. We had a good amount of people watching this whole podcast for the whole 2 hours. Thank you so much, everybody that tuned in. Thank you for sharing your live chat. And don't forget, if you love the content, smash and press that like and subscribe button real quick. We do this podcast, and I always invite Pacific Islanders all around the world to come on. We talk about these topics, so definitely subscribe to get that notification when we do go live. But yes, we have come to the end. Thank you so much to the panel. Shout out to the panel real quick. And shout out to Tautauatalk. You guys brought the heat tonight. You guys brought it tonight all the way from down under. I appreciate you guys. You guys were fun. You guys brought some deep conversation tonight. Thank you so much. And of course, shout out to Savage and Taniela. As always, But ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of the podcast. What's your final thoughts from tonight's discussion? What's your takeaway? And of course, how can people find you? Please drop your social media links so people can find you. If they're watching this right now, they want to support you on your platforms. I'll start with our newest guest, Tautauatalk Pepe. What's your final thoughts from tonight's podcast? And how can people find you if they want to support you? Go ahead, Pepe.
You can find us on Instagram or TikTok. We are called Tautauatalk. We are two brown women, just sharing love, sharing culture, sharing views. Make sure you like, follow, and share us because we lit. Follow us on Tautauatalk. Final thoughts. Just be the best version of who you are. Try to be the best version of who you are. And if you're still trying to, and it's okay if you're still trying to find who you are. Yeah. And read the Bible and pray every day. You know you heard that in your Pacific Islander homes. Read your Bible and pray every day. But that's it for me.
Awesome. I think for me, as like we said, Tautauatalk, follow us on Instagram and TikTok, honestly. Thank you so much, Will, for inviting us. Honestly, this was our first time actually doing it. We enjoyed it. I think what I take away from this is how diverse our culture is and how much very alive it is, honestly. And as much as we have differences and what we are, we really are together and what we are doing, you know what I mean? And I think I'm encouraged, just like Savage said, I'm encouraged that regardless of what it is our parents and our grandparents can look back and say, man, we did it. Like we are actually really expanding whatever it is that our grandparents and that installed into us, whether it be through our faith, whether it be through our podcast, whether it be through education, like Taniela says. And I really do love it. And I think it's a testament to the tenacity of our people. It's a testament to how strong we are as people, is that we will not back down. We are looking to the future, and we are saying that our children and our children's children will not forget our culture, but mostly not forget what we instill into them. So I don't know. I came into this. I'm actually very encouraged and really full of hope that our culture is still alive and still strong. And as diverse and many opinions we have, at the end of the day, we still have each other and we're very unified in what we're doing. So that's what I can take away about that.
All right, no worries. Thank you so much. I appreciate you, Sega. And then Pepe, I know you went like this. I think that's the Nazi Hitler. I think.
No, it's the Superman.
That's a different culture. That's a different culture.
We're going to get cancelled now.
Cancelled now.
All right, no worries, Pepe. I appreciate you guys. We're very grateful to have you guys on. And then, for Savage, final thoughts and how can people find you?
Don't find me. If you find me, good on you. But right now, I don't want to be found. I'm in enough trouble as it is. No, I'm just kidding. YouTube, TikTok, Instagram. Will, it's always an honor and a pleasure, Toko, to get on here and have these talanoa when we can, because, nobody thought that a podcast could be therapeutic, and it is. When you're driving down the highway, when you're flying hours away to another city or country, you could put this on and just listen and get new perspective, and gather your own thoughts to make your own points. And Taniela, man, if anybody, you definitely are just a little brother that I see and that I wish I had growing up, because more than anybody, you always want the younger ones to challenge you and to surpass you. And I'm not saying that in a sense that I see competition within you, but it makes me to move, and that's really what our youth should do for the old elders, is to make us move. And Tautauatalk, thank you ladies for getting on and giving your perspective, because one of the most beautiful things is we need more representation within our women to speak for our women. I don't want to get on a panel and talk for our women. I'm a man. Not saying that I can't do that, but it's more authentic if we get that from you. And I think, what was it? Right here, I just found out that me and Favela Moelasi were related. He's my cousin. So, but if you're Pacific Islander, PI, whatever, you're Pacific Islander, not because they made up the word, No, not because anybody else told you you are. You're a Pacific Islander because you own that. Every day when you get up and go to work, when you get up, go to school, when you do the chores, you're a Pacific Islander because you are creating the identity within that. I didn't say Polynesian. I didn't say Micronesian. I didn't even.
Oh,
You muted yourself, Savage.
mute.
I muted myself. I'm so sorry. I muted myself. But yes, we are the people of the ocean, the children of the sea. Kainga me motu tahi is who we are. We're not Pacific Islander because of a skin color or a political position. We are Pacific Islander because of the very spirit that our people hold when we walk into a room. You don't see that, you feel that. Before I walk in the room, you almost turn and feel, oh my God, Savage is here. Without even knowing. That's the spirit that we hold as people whenever we come into a room. If one person can come in, it feels like a crowd just walked into the room. That is the gift that you have. So as a Pacific Islander, I want you to always remember that no matter where you go in this world, if you ever feel alone, you may feel alone, but you're not. So with that being said, I just want to tell you guys I love you guys very much. To everybody who is watching and who listens to this later, hey, you're doing great. You keep going. Thank you.
So good.
Thank you, Savage. I think Taniela said that his great grandfather was a naked Samoan man, so maybe it runs in the family.
As you can see, Fabiola sounds a bit confused. He's looking for his identity as well.
All right, no worries, Savage. Always appreciate you, Toko. Always appreciate your feedback. And then Daniela, last but not least, final thoughts and find you, and we conclude the podcast. Go ahead, Daniela.
Yeah, don't find me. And well, again, as always, thank you for always having giving me the opportunity to come on and sort of share my perspective on certain topics. To the ladies from Tautauatalk, what Savage said, we need more women who are willingly going to engage with other men. I think it's not just cultural, but there's a division between our men and women. Especially nowadays, we're seeing a high rise in young men sort of looking at our young women in a way where we've gone away from the way that we've always looked at our women, and that was something that was encompassed in the legends of Hina. Women were held to the highest regards, and we shared those stories especially when I was growing up in Tonga, in a way where you look at the beauty that women hold and you respect that, and not only that, you treasure that, and it showed in our practices. The way that we now practice that should be in the way that we conversate with each other. We should come together and talk about the issues that we're facing together. At the end of the day, we're all that we have, and there is no one that is going to relate to you like a Samoan or Fijian, although we may come from different islands. But as soon as we meet together, that mana or that transfer of energy is similar and cannot be replicated. So yeah, challenge your ideas, talk to men and women within the space, especially from the ocean that you come from, because nowadays there are so many people running to social media to essentially crucify each other, and it's happening a lot more in our own community than anywhere else.
Yeah.
We're throwing each other into the mouth of the wolves when we should be building each other, and we don't start to build until we sit down and actually talk and listen and hear what differing opinions we may have, because it's only going to provide at least perspective for ourselves. So yeah, we're great navigators, so act like one. Be ruthless. And if you're going to be ruthless and be naked and cause havoc in society, be ruthless and navigate the white man system.
Come on,
we have so much strength. We have so much strength. So yeah, malo opito. And again, thank you for having me, Will.
No worries. Thank you so much, Taniela, Tautauatalk, and Savage. And thank you out to the live chat. Make sure you guys navigate your way to the like and subscribe button real quick. And smash that like and subscribe button real quick.
Navigate your way to
Also, navigate your way. Also, check out Tautauatalk. I'll drop the link for their podcast. Navigate your way and support their podcast as well. Savage Al has a podcast. Definitely check out his podcast as well. I'll drop all the links below. Please make sure you guys support us. And of course, yeah, thank you so much, everybody. We do this every single Wednesday. We definitely have a new panel and new topic next week. So smash that button so you get notified. But nevertheless, Tautauatalk, Taniela Savage, thank you so much. You guys all have a blessed night. Peace, y'all. Hello, people. Peace. All right, y'all.